We started Castle Island on paper back in 2011, and it was probably around 2013, 2014 that we started getting serious about bringing it to life. When we were looking for space, we really wanted to open in South Boston. I'm a Southie resident. I've been living here since 2009. There's this kind of work hard, play hard mentality around Castle Island that I thought really embodied what we're trying to do with the beer. But when we started our property search, we found that there really wasn't anything in South Boston that was going to fit the bill. What we had envisioned for a brand required large-scale manufacturing, and South Boston just doesn't have that kind of real estate anymore. We ended up down in the town of Norwood, about 20 minutes south of Boston. The word Norwood doesn't exist anywhere in our original business plan, but hindsight being 2020, I wish it had, because quite honestly, Norwood has been the best place for us to open up. We got our doors open there at the tail end of 2015. The town worked with us to install what has been the first brewery ever in the town. So it was a learning experience on both sides, but the town's been super supportive. The people that live there are easily some of our #1 fans. It's just been a great place to grow. That was 6 years ago. A couple of years back, we had a unique opportunity to expand into South Boston, which we hopped on at the beginning of 2019. The space that we're in is home to the old Colesey Plant. Colesey was an electrical switch manufacturing company that made switches for cars, boats, planes, trains. And it was started in the late 1920s by a guy named Leo Mayer. Leo Mayer just so happens to be my great-grandfather. So this was home to a family business going back a few generations. It went through 2 more generations until my cousins sold the business a handful of years ago, and the real estate a couple of years after that to our landlord. They obviously knew the family connection, and they knew we were Castle Island and this is South Boston. So they reached out and said, hey, you guys want to put in a brewery here? And we couldn't say yes fast enough. I'd love to sit here and tell you that our liquid is somehow unique, that we use a special technique or ingredient that does something that no one else does. But quite honestly, we're in an industry that's been around for thousands of years. A lot of those bells have already been rung. What we are really focused on is making a consumer experience that's really just as excellent as the beer. We go through a lot of lengths to put together events that give us opportunities to engage in the community, engage with our fans. We are putting a brand out there in a really transparent way that not a lot of other people are doing. We're trying to make sure that Castle Island provides people an opportunity to feel like they're part of the action and not a consumer in some sort of transactional manner. There are kind of 3 internal quotes that we reference a lot, and quite honestly, those are 3 big motivations for me. So the first really drives our company ethos. It's a quote from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the classic movie from the early 90s. It's be excellent to each other. I was a philosophy student in school. I feel like we're all here to kind of share the experience of being human, and there's something to be said for treating other people in a humanistic way, and beer has this awesome leveling effect. Another quote is from the 1980s cult comedy, This Is Spinal Tap. We say it all the time, it's have a good time all the time. And then I'd say the third motivation is a quote that hangs on a sign above our loading dock, which we didn't put up, it actually came with the building, but it reads, if you're not proud of it, don't ship it. And this really speaks to that excellence quality that we focus on so much. One of the challenges is when we opened in Massachusetts, our brewery license number was 138, and the licenses are all sequential. There are now over 220 licensed breweries in the state of Massachusetts. So in the 6 short years we've been around, we've seen the number of breweries almost double on us. That creates an insane amount of competition. That's really forced us to, A, step up our game on the quality side, on the marketing side, B, work with our distributors and our wholesale partners to figure out what are the brands that we should be pushing. Number 1, I think we would love to be expanding our distribution footprint. Right now you can find our beer throughout Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We'd love to be expanding throughout New England the next 3 to 5 years. So I would say probably towards the tail end of that, that's more realistic. Beyond that, I would really love to continue to develop our team. We hired a few seasoned people, but for the most part, a lot of our people came in pretty green to the beer industry. We really want to spend a lot of time developing them as individuals and developing their careers. Can I share 2 pieces of advice? One piece of advice I got from Gesmer's own Steve Snyder. This was very early on, before we had even opened our doors, I think before we'd even signed a lease. And the advice I got from Steve was, starting your own business involves a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And you're really tempted to celebrate the highs, and it can be really tempting to let the lows get the better of you. But what that does is this creates this emotional roller coaster where if you actually go for that ride and you experience the extreme highs and the extreme lows, you're gonna burn yourself out. So as painful as it is, sometimes you gotta find a way to not let the lows hurt you as much. You do wanna celebrate the highs, but you gotta be mindful in how you do it so that you really kind of manage in the middle. The other one is a great piece of advice we got from one of our investors who is a very successful entrepreneur himself. And it's really simple, but a lot of people forget it, and it's never ever give up. There's always a new roadblock, there's always a new unforeseen challenge. It doesn't matter what your business is, and you cannot let those stop you. It's all about having grit, keeping one foot in front of the other, and just never stopping. For us as a small business, again, I talked about staying lean. We have to operate as leanly as possible, but having the right partners, whether it's an attorney or a CPA or an outside HR firm, we really rely on them to be extensions of our own company. We don't look at them as transactional service providers. We look at them as, hey, yeah, we have an HR department and we can call them no matter what. And the more we treat them like internal business partners and not external service providers, is the more value we end up getting out of those relationships. From a business perspective, we've also loved our relationship with Gesmer because not only is all the technical legal stuff taken care of, but we know that we have people we can pick up the phone and call for advice on a unique challenge that really may not be legally related. They've also got an incredibly well plugged in network. So anytime we've needed access to someone in a far out field or looking for an introduction to someone we don't know but want to know, they've been awesome in helping us refer to those people. Why go with Gesmer? Steve Snyder brought us into the firm really before we even started using Gesmer as a law firm. And I got a lot of great advice from him, and we had a unique legal challenge. I mentioned it to him. He said, let me connect you with one of our partners here. And really what we loved about it was the level of service that we were getting, the responsiveness that we were getting, and the professionalism in the work product were enough for us to say, hey, we think we want to give these guys our work going forward. For a relatively small firm, they have the power of a large firm, but at the costs of a small firm. And for a small business like ours, that's been huge. So that was a big factor in us deciding that, Gesmer was going to be the right firm for us.
Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you want to find out more information about Gesmer, you can go to any of our social media pages or gesmer.com.